By 1961, the McDonald brothers were out of the way, and so there was nothing stopping Ray from transforming McDonald's into everything he dreamed it could be. Ray wanted an aggressive marketing campaign to cement McDonald's as a household name, but with only 228 stores across the country, most Americans had never even heard of McDonald's. A national advertising campaign would be overkill, so the team decided that the best way to promote McDonald's would be locally. With the help of their franchisees, it was a gamble for sure. Selecting the right franchisee to run a restaurant was hard enough, and now they were trusting them with McDonald's image. But Ray's personal preference in franchisees were the young entrepreneurial types, and this became one of the McDonald's strengths because they were always experimenting with new ideas on how to improve their own restaurants. For example, one operator wanted to use TV advertising to get children interested in his McDonald's. He found a local show called Bozo's Circus, and when it came time for the Bozo character to promote McDonald's, the actor was a spectacular salesman, and the local McDonald's was soon flooded with kids. When the TV show was cancelled though, they were left without their biggest promoter. But realizing how successful targeting children had been, McDonald's created a new mascot, Ronald McDonald, and they made him a staple of every single McDonald's, along with the whole cast of characters including the Hamburglar and Grimace. McDonald's would later double down on this strategy further by introducing the Happy Meal, which included a toy, and thus helped get new customers hooked on McDonald's from early age. It was only in later years that many would come to question the ethics of so aggressively targeting children with their fast food. But still, individual McDonald's operators like this one were responsible for creating other innovations like the Big Mac, the drive-thru, and the Playlands. And that was the duality of Ray Kroc. Whilst he was very keen to ensure the same consistent quality of experience at every McDonald's, he also encouraged his franchisees to use their own creativity. McDonald's would then choose the best among these local experiments and implement them into the system as a whole, so every other restaurant would benefit too. For many companies, growing larger can often mean less innovation. But for McDonald's, every new operator came with new fresh ideas to bring on the table. So, as more stores began to market themselves across the country, eventually McDonald's did begin to get national attention. At this point, Ray figured the next logical move was taking McDonald's public on the stock market, something no other fast food company had done by 1965. And the timing was perfect. America was in the thick of one of the most generous bull markets in history. So within weeks of going public, McDonald's stock rose over 60% in value. Ray was now a multi-millionaire, as was Harry, who'd been with Ray pretty much from the start. However, it wasn't all plain sailing for the McDonald's team. In the 60s, Harris had felt McDonald's needed to slow down its progressive expansion due to fears of an upcoming recession, but their main competitor, Burger King, did the exact opposite. In 1967, Burger King opened over 100 restaurants, and by the next year, Burger King was only 100 total restaurants away from surpassing McDonald's. Seeing McDonald's could lose its spot at the top of the fast food industry, Ray demanded they ignore the warnings and resume expansion campaign immediately. In truth, tensions between Ray and Harry had been starting to grow for a while. They had very different perspectives and often saw things very differently. Whilst Harry was technically the CEO, Ray was the company president and owned the majority of the company stock, so he could replace Harry if he needed to. And after the expansion argument, he nearly did, but luckily it didn't come to that, as Harry stepped down from the company voluntarily and Ray took over the CEO himself. But one day, while giving a speech to a group of McDonald's operators, Ray saw that Joanne was in the crowd, the woman who'd broken his heart years ago. Ray worked into his speech that he'd now achieved all he ever wanted in life, except one thing. The crowd was confused what he meant, but Ray was staring right at Joanne as he said it. To get her close, Ray called for an after party in his suit. By the end of the night, Ray and Joanne were the only ones left, singing old favorites at the piano. Joanne told Ray that this time, she didn't care what anyone told her. She was getting a divorce from her husband and wanted to marry Ray instead. Now, for 15 years, Ray's entire life had been consumed by McDonald's and it had paid off. But now he was starting a new marriage with the woman he'd been chasing for years. He wanted to finally think a bit less about the business. For a man as driven as Ray, this certainly didn't mean he would retire. It just meant he would only think about McDonald's while he slept and up to about 5 p.m. and then keep the evenings reserved for Joanne. Whilst Ray would remain the public face of McDonald's for many years, he wanted to name a new driven CEO to lead the company forward, and that responsibility fell to Fred Turner, the young fry cook Ray had picked out and promoted to vice president of operations all those years ago. He'd become like the son Ray never had, and after shadowing Ray for years, Ray felt Fred was ready to take over as CEO. And whilst Ray had left big shoes to fill, it's fair to say Fred delivered. The first challenge Fred took on was expanding McDonald's globally. None of their competitors had been able to succeed outside of America yet, and even Ray had tried to expand McDonald's into the Netherlands, Canada, and Caribbean. However, the original mistake was trying to adapt their menu to the local culture. And it failed horribly. When Fred tried breaking McDonald's into Japan, he knew he had to take a different approach. Instead of changing the menu, he left it intact, but like in America, he left marketing to the locals and it worked. The Japanese people loved the authentic McDonald's experience. In fact, they admired its Japan-like efficiency. The same strategy worked in other countries as well, and McDonald's became one of the main exporters of American culture. Since they recruited locals to operate the restaurants and market the brand, the world received them with open arms. Next on Fred's list was putting expansion into high gear. Fred had climbed the ladder at McDonald's all the way from burger flipper to CEO, so he understood the business from all angles. When he was younger, he perfected every aspect of operations, from finding the right temperature to cook fries in to the way employees spoke to customers. Now though, Fred was optimizing the process of finding a franchisee and opening a new store, and it's fair to say he succeeded. With Fred as CEO, there was no escaping McDonald's. New stores were being built across the world, faster than even Ray had ever dreamed was possible. By 1974, they were opening more than 500 restaurants every year, and the number only kept growing. Only a few years before, Burger King had equaled McDonald's in terms of yearly growth, but Fred broke McDonald's into the global market and more than tripled the number of stores. Burger King was left far behind, and McDonald's was fast becoming one of the largest and most iconic companies in the world. However, now that McDonald's was a global conglomerate, it was up against new and dangerous caliber of challenges. As the international face of fast food, McDonald's was about to face some of the worst scandals in its history. Because of its enormous size, McDonald's became a target of public humiliation and much worse. Don't forget to give me a quick little follow for more trivia and stories on the big brands that you know and love.